Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go. And welcome to Ballsy Uncut here on this, what the heck day is it? Lose track when I'm working a real job at Crestview Chrysler. 601 Albert Street, by the way, where if you get a vehicle from me from now until the end of January, you get, you'll be in the running for 2 tickets to a Riders game, the home opener, and a Joe jersey, which I'll try to get autographed. Beautiful obsidian one that I bought from the Riders store. Also, if you refer somebody to come buy from me and they buy, you get $300 just like that. I will pay you out of my deal $300 cash, a referral fee. Okay. It's great. And we got lots of great deals on the lot. Lots of great deals at the expense of using some car lingo. It's a great time down there at Crestview Chrysler. I know a lot of accidents in the Regina and surrounding area because of the cold weather. Then the roads get greasy when it warms up. So hopefully everybody's safe. But I heard there's like 35 car accidents in and around the last day or so. And so if you need a new vehicle, I know where you can find one, 601 Albert Street. And you can always reach out to me on my cell, 306-526-7979. So there you go. There's a plug for my day job, but I still love doing sports broadcasting. It's great to continue to do this 3 times a week. And today we got a great show. Ryder Varga is going to join us. The Regina Ram, the boldest Golden Sun, BC Lion, traded to the Toronto Argonauts, as you hear, or as you're going to hear and see. It was a shocking Sunday call that he got. So we'll talk to him about that. He's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, too. We'll talk about his alma mater, the Rams, kicking some ass this year. Also, the new offensive coordinator, the Regina Thunder, that would be Carter Gusway, will join us, too. He was the quarterback's coach last year, working alongside the longtime OC, Stefan Edson. But Stefan is done, and Carter is in, along with Chris Getzlaff as an offensive consultant. We had Getzy on earlier, in an earlier episode, actually. And we're also going to hear from former Regina Ram, former Sheldon Williams Spartan, former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, former Green Bay Packer, only Saskatchewan kid to win a Super Bowl, Seattle Seahawk, actually raised the 12th man flag before the Seahawks Green Bay regular season game in Seattle on Sunday Night Football. That'd be Jon Ryan. It's a regular feature, Kicking It with Jon Ryan. We'll talk NCAA football. We'll talk NFL football and a little CFL too. We covered all with Jon Ryan. Also taking your comments at Ballsy Uncut on X, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Little thing we call the gospel according to Ballsy. I'm just working on an audio bed for this, but we will have that available for sponsorship too if you want. I'm getting those packages out soon to renew our existing sponsors, which we're happy with. The likes of Gerhardt Studios, Nicole and Dean, their great social media company. Ward Tirecraft, 101 Dudney Avenue. Go see Michael Barth and the gang there, and you tell them Ballsy sent you, and all of a sudden, just like that, 10% off. And also Super Squeeze Seltzers from District Brewing, Mango Lime, Passion Fruit Lime, District Brewing, 8th Avenue in Regina. And then, of course, you get all their stuff, not just there, but in all the participating Saskatchewan liquor stores. But this gospel, we'll talk a little hockey. Blackhawks phenom Connor Bedard, a friend of the podcast, a guy that, of course, was a great phenom with the Regina Pats, first overall pick of the Chicago Blackhawks a couple of seasons ago. He was caught in the crosshairs by NHL legend Jeremy Roenick. Roenick and I shared a stage just before he went into the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto in November. We shared a stage in Weyburn. JR is a great guy. He's been on this podcast before. I like his outspoken nature, man after my own heart. But the Blackhawks lost to the Blues 6-3 in that outdoor game, and the fans weren't happy with the loss and aren't happy with the Blackhawks. Bedard, though, has been having a rough time in his sophomore season. Last I saw, it was like 34 points, 10 goals in 39 games. And people are saying, oh, Macklin Celebrini's way better. I'll get to that in a second. Anyway, Roenick does his podcast, which is, what is it? The Snipes and Stripes with Tim Peel, the former NHL ref. And they chat about hockey, the goings on in the league now and in the past. Well, the Hall of Famer Roenick accused Bedard of disrespecting him, Chris Chelios, and Denis Savard as the trio was on the ice before that outdoor classic game. According to Roenick, every player came up to talk to the trio except Bedard, which rubbed him the wrong way. And I quote, all the players came up to me, Chelly and Savvy, except one, Roenick said. That was Connor Bedard. If we don't have respect to go up and fist bump to say congratulations, how can you do it with your own teammates? So I like JR. I like Connor Bedard. And I'll have a comment about both guys here in the gospel, according to Ballsy. JR is outspoken, so I wouldn't expect him to change. I don't expect him to change as an outspoken guy myself. I'm like, nope, I'm totally down with speaking your mind, whether I agree with it or not. And I do think it was kind of disrespectful if everybody else was doing it. And truth be told, I didn't watch the game very much. Few minutes. I didn't see that part of it for sure, the pregame ceremony. But if everybody else goes up and Bedard doesn't go up, I'm not sure why he wouldn't. That doesn't look good. But I think it's a stretch for JR to suggest that he's that way with his teammates. By all accounts and everybody I've talked to, he was loved by his teammates here in Regina. And let's remember for a second, Connor Bedard is 19 years old. First overall pick, had a great first season, like really good first season. And so for people to say, oh, Celebrini is better. Of course, the kid in San Jose, and he is good. Celebrini's putting him to shame. Listen, Bedard is a little undersized. He needs to put on some more weight. Roenick even mentioned that in our conversation on stage in Weyburn. So he does need to put on some more weight, needs to be better defensively, needs to be a little greasier around the net. No doubt about that, okay? But the guy's 19 in Chicago, playing for the Blackhawks, a storied franchise that not that long ago was a 3-time Stanley Cup winner in like 5 or 6 years, okay? With Joel Quenneville, Stan Bowman, and the gang, regardless of what happened off the ice, which I'm not diminishing or poo-pooing. That was a great Chicago Blackhawks team, and they're not that far removed from it, although they feel like a long way away from it now, granted. But you've got Connor Bedard in Chicago. Don't compare what he's doing and what he's facing with Macklin Celebrini in San Jose, California. Okay. So I wouldn't do that for the fans doing that. But you know what makes this go away? Winning cures a lot of warts in any sport. Playing better hockey yourself individually, which Bedard has not been up to snuff. He'd even probably admit that, although I haven't talked to him. I haven't even talked to him since he left the Pats. I've talked to his dad a couple of times, but not him. But he, and I'm pretty sure they're locking things down around Connor Bedard, to be quite honest with you. His dad was going to get a couple of jerseys signed for me from Connor for charity, and I think that's still going to happen because it's a good family, but I think they're locking things down right now. The correspondence between me and Tom has been hit and miss for a while now, so I think they're kind of just, and that's fine, and that's totally great. I get what Roenick's saying, though. If anybody knows what Bedard's going through, it's Roenick. He wasn't a top pick, but he was a highly touted pick, and he came in as a young kid in the playoffs at like 18 years old. So he grew up fast. Now, he was a little stockier as he went on. He played a rugged game. I love Jeremy Roenick. Great guy. Like I said, I do think it's a stretch to suggest that he's like that with his teammates, but I can see why Jeremy would have his feathers ruffled. And I don't know why Connor wouldn't go up and be the only quote unquote guy not to do that. That's actually not a very good look. So we'll see going forward if things can get turned around for Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks. Speaking of outdoor hockey, the NHL is ruining a good thing. It is great to have one outdoor game a year. That's it. Not a Heritage Classic in Canada, although we had a good one here between Winnipeg and Calgary. They had one between Edmonton and Winnipeg. This whole thing started way back in the day when the Oilers hosted, I think 2003 was like minus a bajillion. They hosted Montreal in that game. Calgary's hosted before. So, but one a year. Now they're doing an outdoor series in Florida with the Tampa Lightning, doing one game, and I think the Florida Panthers doing one game. Listen, Tampa's been a great market. They've won a couple of Stanley Cups, been in the mix for a long time, so their fan base is pretty strong. Florida's hasn't been great till recently. Of course, they won the Stanley Cup last year, and I went to a game in Florida last year, and man, it was a fun time. And I was surprised about how engaged the fan base was. But let's not ruin. We just have to squeeze everything. Just make it one game a year. New Year's Eve / New Year's Day, the outdoor classic. That's it. Like, come on. It's like all these games in the NFL. I get the money and all that aspect. Okay. I'm not a businessman. I'm learning about dollars and cents and profits and everything like that in this job at Crestview Chrysler. But I don't know, man. They've got games on Amazon, Thursday night football, Monday night football, Sunday night football, flexing games. And it seems like they just don't have enough good games to go around to fulfill all these network deals like Amazon and Peacock and all this stuff. So sometimes I don't like Mark Cuban very much recently, especially with some of the things he's been saying and endorsing Joe Biden. You'd have to be an idiot to endorse Joe Biden. But Mark Cuban has made billions. He's a rich man, and he said fat cows go to slaughter, and he predicted that with the NFL. It's not coming to pass right now, but sometimes you can get a little greedy, and I think the NHL is getting greedy too with these outdoor series. Like, great, I'm happy things are going well in Florida. More teams, and more successful teams, but a winter outdoor classic in Florida for hockey. Same with California. Come on. We'll get to some more football and other sporting news in a minute. But first, a sponsor break, and then we're into our first interview with Ryder Varga, the former Leboldas Golden Sun veteran Ram linebacker, a BC Lion who had a great year, but he's not a BC Lion anymore. He's been traded to the Grey Cup champion, Toronto Argonauts. All right, here's our friend Ryder Varga wearing his Ram shirt proudly. Talk about that. All right, here's our friend Ryder Varga wearing his Ram shirt proudly. Talk about that playoff run from an alumni's perspective.
Yeah, it was exciting for sure. I wish we could have done that when I was there, but it's good to see the guys build on the foundation that we kind of laid out, and super exciting to see them in playoffs. And still wish they would have won that game against Laval. I think they had it in them, but it's all right. We got the Vanier next year here at home. So
I tell you what, man, they would have won the Vanier Cup when you think about it. I think they would have won the Vanier Cup had they converted that third down and won that game against Laval. It's kind of, I know hindsight's 2020, but you look back at it now, it's like, wow, what a miraculous run that was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was really exciting to watch, and talk to all the guys after, still close to a lot of them on the team and the coaches. It was just proud of them. That's all I can really say. Just so proud of them.
Now, listen, you're not Brad Nostradamus or Ryder Nostradamus. Brad, I was thinking about your dad. You're not Nostradamus, but you are a guy that was there. Did you see shades of this coming? Like, hey, they could get on a bit of a run and do something like that?
Not early in the season, I guess. I mean, it did start 2-0, but they really just locked it in. Super impressed with the defense. I mean, just, I don't know, Sheldon Gray tweeted some stuff and had all those guys out there just ball hawking and creating big plays. I mean, that's one thing I wish we did more when I was there, is just we couldn't get the big play when we needed it, or the turnover when at a timely time. So that was really just impressive to watch, and can't say enough about them.
So I've watched all levels of football. I down in NCAA closely, and I've watched U Sports. I can't figure out why more people don't get into U Sports. It's the wackiest, wildest, most exciting football I've watched. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, no, it's even that U of S game and in the playoffs, it was wild. And then blocked field goal, or I just fumble snap, but it's just
Yeah.
so much stuff happening, and yeah, it's exciting, but I can't really force somebody's hand. They kind of try to experience it for themselves and get hooked.
Yeah. So you were a BC Lion, now you're a Toronto Argonaut. Think about this, going from one expensive city to another expensive city. Two-sided coin there. Hey, Ryder.
Yeah, it's at least I'll kind of know how to maneuver my way in a big city, so I won't feel too small fish in a big pond, but it's still something to get used to for sure.
How did you like being a Regina kid living in the big city? What's that like for a guy from the prairies?
Yeah, it's good. It's exciting. There's a ton of stuff to do every day. Like I always tell people, you'll never run out of things to do in Vancouver and the surrounding areas. So that's always good. But sometimes it's a little overwhelming. You're trying to get downtown, and maybe you're halfway there on the SkyTrain. You're I forgot my wallet or something. That kind of ruins your whole day. We're in Regina. It's like a 50-minute drive maximum anywhere in the city. So that's the biggest difference for me.
Yeah, that's the greatest. The ring road's the greatest road, except for that stupid train at Winnipeg Street, right?
Yeah, don't even get me started. The engineer in me is gonna lose it.
Hey, the engineer in you. Do you like the East End of Regina? I hate how the East End was engineered out here, man. It feels like kind of like Saskatoon. Every time I drive into Saskatoon, it's like I'm in this big metropolis, and I'm not. But the way they design it, there's a street light every 5 feet.
Yeah, I don't love. I mean, the streetlights are one thing, but it bothers me how there's only like 2 big like east-west corridors in the whole city.
Yeah.
Like, everyone on the East End just takes Arcola or Vic. Yeah. So then in the morning or rush hour, it's just terrible. So hopefully they figure something out there. All the stuff more east of that by the Costco, they're going to build a ton of houses out there. So
yeah,
we got some people smarter than me, I hope, working on that. So.
I don't know about that, my friend. I don't. Hey, I want to ask you, because you're a smart, driven guy, so this wouldn't affect you. But I've talked to other people about this. When you get to the CFL, you have a lot more time on your hands than, say, U Sports or NCAA Division football or Division I football, because they've got you at the facility. You're on scholarship. It's almost like they own your ass. In the CFL, because of the collective bargaining agreement, they can only keep you there, 4.5 hours? Everything else is on you. You're in a big city. Can be dangerous for guys, right? I'm not saying you, but you got to be really locked in as a professional. It has to really mean something to you.
No, for sure. I mean, you got nothing but time on your hands. I mean, a lot of the guys use it wisely, and they'll do more rehab, do workouts, spend more time in the film room or coaches or players meetings. Like you can fill your day pretty good with stuff to do at the facility. And, depends on what your interests are. If your interests are going out and fancy dining every night and going out to try and meet people and dance, and it can get away from you pretty quickly. But good thing dancing's not really in my repertoire. So we keep that. Keep it pretty even keel over here.
Pretty even keel. I love it, Ryder Varga. So was this a shock that you got traded?
Yeah, I found out was that Sunday night. Just got back from a little trip and was tired, and our GM BC called me at like 11:30 p.m. and was not the call I was expecting for sure. So it's kind of a wild night. Just that call, and then text my agent, call my girlfriend. Agent calls me. Call my girlfriend again. Toronto executive calls me. Yeah, it was just like a lot of phone call when I was just about to doze off to sleep. So definitely woke me up a little bit.
Yeah, didn't sleep very well, I bet. So what does it feel like? First time you've been traded, what professional football hits you in the face? They always say the game's great, the business sucks. What is that like? What kind of emotions run through you when you get traded?
I mean, first just like stunned. Like I was just like, wait, this is like, you always like think about that, but the CFL, it doesn't seem like there's that many trades ever. So if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago if I ever thought I was going to get traded in my career, I probably would have said like 5% chance or lower. But it's just like everything runs through your mind like at once. It's like, oh, I have, to figure out a new place to live. Where do they practice? What are their meetings like? What are their coaches like? How am I going to fit in there? Oh, I have a bunch of stuff in storage in BC. Who's going to handle that? Got to buy a new mattress and all that stuff will kind of sort itself out in the end. But your mind can't help but running to every possible opportunity and if difficulty you can think of.
Are you mad? Are you excited? Are you disappointed? Are you hopeful? Is it all of those things?
I wouldn't really say I'm mad per se. Like I get it. Like from BC's perspective, it makes like perfect sense to make this trade. I can't look at them and be like, oh, they're idiots for trading me, even though I do think I'm, you know, a valuable asset, and I don't think that teams should make a habit out of trading young Canadian talent that's only getting better. I'll say that, but they needed a line pretty badly, and you know that's the price that they wanted to pay. And Toronto asked specifically for me in return, so that's. I mean, I just feel optimistic because it feels like Toronto really values me, and I must have made an impact on them with whatever film I put out or when I played them and stuff like that. So I'm happy that to go to a place that, you know, sought me out in particular and wants to utilize me and thinks I can help them win another Grey Cup here and defend their title.
Yeah, they're the champs, hey? You're going to the champs. Did you go to that game, or did you, as a guy who got knocked out, forget it? I'm not going. I'm not watching.
I'm not going. I went home pretty soon after that. So packed all my stuff up, and me and my roommate got out of there pretty quickly. So
yeah, who's your roommate?
Pickett, Riley Pickett.
Oh, Riley Pickett. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. So who's going to be your roommate in Toronto? Have you figured that out yet? Too early to tell.
Way too early to tell.
Yeah,
I gotta see how some stuff shakes out here and see who I meet at training camp and yada yada. Well, I'll push that. I'll kick that can.
Yeah, that's kick it a little further down the road. Let's go back to BC. You could talk now as openly as you want. I'm going to ask you. I asked Nathan Rourke. I asked VA this. I'll ask you this. I don't know, like, whether it's the right way to put it. Was it a fractured locker room when we had because sometimes they say when you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any quarterbacks because it's, you know, half the room support this guy, half the room support that guy. But I guess I'll ask you it this way. What was the dynamic like in the locker room? Was there a weird feeling? Like, do you think that did more harm than good to the team? And that's no disrespect to Nathan, but it just seemed off ever since he came back.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I would say just people have their loyalty already set. I mean, VA was our guy and our leader for, you know, before I was even there. So it's tough for the guys, especially like the receivers who are, you know, best friends with him and stuff like that. Like they were quite upset about it. And, you know, everybody kind of has their own feelings about it. But I just feel bad for like both sides. Like I would hate to be in Nathan's position and thrust into a team. And it feels like the owners and everybody wants you to be the guy, but the players have all been with, you know, their guy VA for the last 2 years and built up like layers of trust. And VA is a special kind of leader. Nathan's another leader too, but not the same. Two different leaders. And, you know, traditional quarterback leader, you know, yelling friendly to everybody is VA. Nate will yell in the game time, but VA is just energy every day. In your face and making you feel welcome and part of the team, and Rourke can be a little bit more, you know, down here with his energy and chill and focused. And I like that, but you know, it's just when you've been with a certain leader and that has been the face of your team for that many years, it's hard for everyone to be like, oh, see you later. Like I'm gonna go be best friends with Nathan now.
Yeah. Hey, I think the best compliment I can give you, or at least I think it's a big compliment, is when I watched you play, I got your number confused a lot with Ben Hladek. And a lot of people were everybody was talking about Ben Hladek, right? Ben's a great player. I've talked to him before. But I think you really stepped your game up. Like, I think you were trying to be humble there, and you are a humble guy. But I do believe the best is yet to come for Ryder Varga. Just assess your talent for me. And you take that as a compliment when I say, hey, that's not 46, that's 48.
I know it. Don't even get me started. Everybody I talk to, even his family, they all say they get us confused, whether or not it's just I don't think so much it's level of play, but you see white linebacker out there. It's quickly and close number. It's hard. Yeah. My grandma has a terrible time trying to tell who's who out there. But no, I mean, when I look at myself, and I told the GMs this when I had my exit interview in BC, like I honestly look around the league. I don't know that I can name that many Canadian linebackers that are better than me, honestly. And I can't, you know, I'm want to be a starting linebacker in this league, and not only a starter, but like excelling and being a real thorn in an offensive side. So I think I can do that. And last year, you know, you get compliments on your play, but internally, you know that you can do better. And there's so many plays you wish you had back. And if I knew what I knew now in week 20 and week 10, like I could have made way more plays, and that all builds up. But yeah, just getting an organization that really believes in me, and maybe the coaches believe in me as a guy, and that can only help catapult me and my play further, I think. So I'm excited to see what I can do here in the next coming years, and I think the best is yet to come for sure.
So it's early on in the process here, but you said Toronto reached out to you. Any indication on their level of trust and what they think of you? Obviously, it's something because they traded an all-star lineman to get you, so that's obvious on paper. But are you getting a sense where you might fit in there? Is it too early yet?
I mean, it's too early, and everyone, you could say whatever you want to anybody, and tell five people the same thing. But from the talk I had with John Murphy, he seemed like to really, they really liked me, and they liked me even back from the combine, and he thought I could do, I'll say deceptively, quick out there, and you look at just a staple. I hate to put somebody in the box, but linebacker, Canadian from Regina, X was my 40 time. Like, a lot of people just say, oh, we're never gonna put him on defense or put him in this situation. But he said no, like he was really impressed and thinks I can do a lot of things that I think he's just trying to say people might underestimate me and my play. So it's happy that he at least sees through that first level, because a lot of football coaches and GMs, I think, struggle to get past that. They have certain criteria in their mind that they want to hit. Like, I want a guy that's X feet tall and runs this fast and arms this long for no lineman. But I think I'm doing a good enough job at showing that I can play in this league and keep up with some of these, top tier athletes as much as I never thought I'd be able to do that.
Shit, you're a top tier athlete too. That's the Canadian. That's the Canadiana, and we don't often promote ourselves. It's true. Two more quick questions for you. You got more time on. You were a special teams demon always, but you got more time on defense. How tough was that to get adjusted to, or was there any adjustment? Because that takes a wear and tear on your body doing everything. That's what makes the CFL great. You got to be multifaceted, and our special teams matter, but it does wear on your body too.
No, for sure. I mean, there's been games where I've only played special teams and I felt like I stole a paycheck, like, just the game script. And so, I got out there for 4 plays. Like it's almost like guilty, like just the way the game goes. But no, when you're on defense and playing 50, 60, 70 plays sometimes, and then out there on punt, and it can get you really quick. And especially I didn't have a training camp really last year because I had mono and stuff like that. It was a little tougher to get my conditioning to where I wanted it to be. But I thought I did pretty well, and I didn't think there was a really long like adjustment period or anything. I just felt like I needed to have more confidence, and you can get certain bits better in practice, but game is the only way that you're really gonna improve and be like, oh, this is how I need to attack this situation. I can't just in practice, you're just going through the motions and you're going full speed, but you can't really play, you know what I mean? So getting game experience and failing in game, I think, is the best way to get better. So it's good to have had that experience.
So I'm going to talk as a dad here. My son is draft eligible. He's been invited to the combine, so he's going to partake in something you did. He's looked up to you as a player. You don't play the same position, but he's looked up to you in the way you've gone about it. So for a guy like him, other guys that may be watching this, what kind of advice would you give to that athlete trying to break into the league, to go to the combine, preparing for the combine, that type of stuff?
It's tough to give like blanket advice that isn't super cliche, but I just want to say, like, you gotta want it. You gotta really know how bad you want it. And I always say to people, like, I didn't put up some certain numbers I wanted to at the combine, or I thought I could do better, but you got to be able to say, like, did I put my best into this? You don't want to be 5 years down the line and be like, man, I really, there's certain like 2 days a week I could have done an extra little thing, or you don't want to be what if. And you can live with you putting your best foot forward and presenting yourself well and really caring about the process. But if you don't get drafted, or if it doesn't work out, then you tried. There's no regrets in trying your best and not working out. You did all you could. You don't want to be what ifing yourself. That's all I'll say.
Well, you have not what if, man. You've been great off the field with the engineering degree, and on the field you've evolved, and now you're a Toronto Argonaut. Can't wait to see you in the double blue. Thanks for your time, Ryder Varga.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Another award-winning edition of Kicking It with Jon Ryan. Hey, Jon. Another award-winning edition of Kicking It with Jon Ryan. Hey, Jon. Before we get to the actual football talk, you raised the 12th man flag there, Seattle, Green Bay at the end of the regular season. Well, how fun was that?
No, it was great. It was definitely pretty high on my bucket list of things to do when I retired. In Seattle, it's such a great honor to be able to do that. The act itself is really cool, but just to be able to be named as that person to do it was pretty cool. So just unbelievable weekend, something I'll never forget.
And to do it with both your old teams playing.
Exactly, yeah, and the fact that it was on Sunday Night Football as well, kind of got a little bit of extra attention. I don't think they always show that on TV, so I got the whole thing on Sunday Night Football. So it was pretty cool.
It's amazing how they make those standalone games seem so big. Hey.
Oh yeah, the NFL does such a good job of that. Just the prime time games are just the biggest thing, and they keep on adding more and more of them. I think the Kansas City Chiefs have played on 6 different days this year. Where you look back, 2009, we played 16 straight Sunday afternoon games. You compare it now, you're looking at teams playing 6 different days of the week. It's a different time, and NFL is definitely taking advantage of this golden age.
We'll get to the NFL and actually NCAA here coming up right away. But hey, Luke Wilson, former Seahawks tight end and analyst, he was adding you too on his Twitter chain there, talking about the CFL. I asked him to come on the podcast. He is all I've heard is cricket so far. So your thoughts on some of his thoughts on the CFL and limiting punting and all this type of stuff.
Obviously with the punting thing was definitely caught my attention. He wants to limit the punting, and my first thought is that'd be a fun dynamic to the game to only be able to punt 4 or 5 times a game or whatever it is. But ultimately, I'm against it. I think for some reason we have this thing where we think punting is boring, and it blows my mind in the CFL when you have maybe one of the most dynamic athletes on the field catching these punts. He's going to return it, I think, about 80% of the time. It's one of the most exciting plays of football. And we in the CFL, you see it 10, 12 times a game. Whereas in the NFL, there's games where you don't see one punt return all game. You might see a couple touchbacks, 4 or 5 fair catches. That's all you see. Where truly, it's one of the most exciting plays. Even if you don't like the punt part of it. Okay, take the punt part of it out. You're putting the ball in your most dynamic athlete's hands with no one within 10 yards of them, and letting them do what they do. I mean, I don't want to take that out of the game.
Well, and that's the joke of it all. And I don't know Luke Wilson from this microphone I'm talking into. He made the NFL, so I'll give him credit for that. Seems like a nice enough guy. He's an okay analyst. Hey, dude, if you want to actually fuck around with punting, how about you limit the punts in the NFL? That's one of the most boring things going is the NFL kicking game. Like, let's just get, no offense, because you made a living out of it and I respect it. But if we're going to fuck around, get rid of the NFL kicking altogether because you're almost there. Like, just leave it alone. I love these guys that don't really pay attention to the CFL and now all of a sudden they're experts on the CFL. All he's trying to do is troll, and I guess he succeeded because he's got guys like me worked up.
Well, I think it's a double-edged sword there because he has gotten a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah,
and I like having a discussion. I like, he might have poked his nose in there a little bit, and then now it's everyone's talking about it, and so I like that. More attention the CFL can get. Sometimes they say bad press isn't always bad.
That's right.
We get the name out there and get stuff going, and so I mean, having a guy like Luke Wilson talk about it a little bit, I think is a positive.
Yeah, so I've asked him to come on the podcast. So far, nothing, but it'd be nice to have a nice chat with him. I respect his opinion. I just don't agree with it. Okay, let's get to the NCAA college football. As a good Catholic boy, I'm cheering for Notre Dame. Notre Dame against Penn State. I've got Notre Dame beating Penn State.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I just don't think that Penn State has the firepower, even though they're the higher seed in this one. All these neutral site games now. I like Notre Dame. I think they're going to be too strong. I don't think it really matters who makes it out of there. I don't think they're going to win in the final, but I'm hoping for a good game on Thursday afternoon. I'll be down at the Cigar Lounge watching the game in Beverly Hills. So life's tough.
That's awesome. Life's tough, man. Hey, when you're a former NFL great, you get the perks later in life. Okay, and then the other one, will Ryder quarterback Steve Sarkisian beat Ohio State, who all of a sudden look like world beaters?
The old Checker Dome regular Steve Sarkisian, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I'm glad that guy quit drinking. Absolutely great football coach.
Yeah.
I love the guy. This is gonna be a game. This is gonna be a really good game. I'm looking forward to this. You look at some of the players, Ohio State. They say they potentially have 10 first-round draft picks in that roster. I
Yeah.
mean, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But Texas has firepower too. I think they have Ohio's favored by 6 now. But I'm taking Ohio, especially after Texas, not looking great against ASU last week. I thought that there should be, I thought they should have won by about 35 going into that game, and to win in overtime. It wasn't a great look for them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, ASU played pretty well. But I'm taking Ohio State to come out of that one.
So people have been up in arms over this 12 team playoffs, and the teams that had buys all lost. And come on, listen, it's like the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs, not this year, but the Kansas City Chiefs lose in week 2 and get their lunch handed to them. So all of a sudden they're not worthy to go to the playoffs and win a Super Bowl. Ohio State loses to a team in like Michigan where they should have beat them on home turf. And then the whole flag incident. And then all of a sudden, Ryan Day should be fired and they don't deserve to be in there. It's the same type of thing. It's the NFL playoffs now. That's what college football playoffs is right now.
It totally is. I mean, it's basically pro football now, anyways. And it's interesting because when they went to the 12-man playoff, 12-team playoff, I was against it. I always liked the way colleges. You had to play. You had to go right from the start line, right to the finish line, being the best team. You can't lose a couple games and still win it. That's why every single game matters so much. That's why when you see 2 years ago Ohio State and Michigan week 14, with a 12-team playoff, that game doesn't mean anything now.
Right.
Or with 12, it doesn't. And back then, it meant a lot. But so far, I've been so entertained by this 12-team playoff. I absolutely love it. I think these always say like when they had a 4-team playoff, they always complain about the 5th team out or the 6th team, and we're gonna get the same thing. I mean, now it's gonna be the 13th team, the 14th team, but overall for the first year, I'm a big fan, and I hope they keep it going.
So I'm going to tie NCAA into college here, and you'll know where I'm going with this, I think, in a minute. But here's my problem with it. Oregon is undefeated, and they didn't get a home playoff game. The Oregon Ducks went undefeated, had to play, I think, in Indianapolis, and then had to play one game. Like, they didn't get to have one at Outson Stadium. That is stupid.
That's stupid. I really thought they should have won the first 2 rounds of the playoffs on the campuses. Then you do the semifinal and the final in neutral sites. But the first 2 rounds should so everyone gets one home playoff game. I think that was a mistake on their behalf. I know they want to still do the Rose Bowl and they want to do all these bowl games, but whatever. Put some other teams in those games and just do the playoffs, the first 2 rounds at home. And I'm totally in agreement with you on that one.
Okay, so this ties me into my first NFL playoff matchup. Okay. Mm-hmm. The Minnesota Vikings are 14-3, and they have to go to the Rams, who are barely 500. The Minnesota Vikings are 14-3, and they don't get a home playoff game. Now, listen, you guys did the same thing back in the day. Seahawks, when you were 7-9 and played the Saints.
We were 6-9 going into week 17. We won that game and went to the playoffs.
Yeah, and that was the grab. That was the grab the junk game where Marshawn Lynch scored the touchdown. But that's a joke. Everybody laughs at the CFL and how Bush League the CFL is. That is an absolute joke that Minnesota has to go to Los Angeles.
It really is. I don't like it. They need to fix this. I understand the division winners, but you look at the division like NFC North this year. Green Bay going 11-6. They really should have went 12-5, and they're 3rd place. But winning 14 games and having to go on the road, I don't know if that's ever happened before.
Yeah.
I don't remember that ever happening before.
Remember.
We're new with this 17-game schedule now instead of 16, but it's crazy. And honestly, I see a world where they get upset. I didn't think they looked great last week. I went and watched the Rams last week. I didn't really get a good feel of them because they were playing a lot of backups. They had a week to rest. They have a week to rest. Well, Minnesota has to go on the road across the country and play a road playoff game. It's going to be tough. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams win this game.
Okay, so this is the most intriguing game of the playoffs, first round for me. And this is the best weekend, the wild card weekend, because this is a $100 million game for Sam Darnold. You've got a Southern California kid who's bounced around, and now he gets to go back to California, USC guy. And listen, he wins this game and wins a couple of games, then for sure he's a $50 million a year quarterback, okay? He loses this game. Minnesota might be, you didn't do so good against Detroit and you lost to the Rams. Okay, maybe we're going to stick with J.J. McCarthy. Like, this one intrigues me. I think Minnesota wins, but this is a big game. This is like the ultimate reality show right here coming up.
It really is. I mean, I still think Darnold's going to get paid. Get paid like crazy with the way the market is for quarterbacks right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy out in Tampa or that guy out in Cleveland got paid. My God, the guy can terrible. So I think he's gonna get paid regardless. But you bring up a good point. He takes his team on a little run. He goes from $40 million a year to $60 million a year real quick.
Yeah. So I got Minnesota winning. You mentioned you kind of said Tampa there, but let's stay with Tampa. Tampa taking on the Commanders. Jaden Daniels has been a revelation. You can see what happens when you get a new owner, new coach, change of culture. But I tell you what, man, people didn't like him. I liked them all along. I'm a Baker Mayfield guy. I like what he brings to the table off the field. And I love that game against New Orleans. A couple of his passes, and to get Mike Evans the record, I like Tampa Bay in this one, and I like Baker Mayfield.
I do too. This is kind of a bit of the same situation. We have a 12-5 team going to a 10-7 team. It's, another thing that can, as we say, should be fixed. But I was never a big Baker fan. He gave me Johnny Manziel vibes for years. And last year, he totally turned my attitude towards him. I love the guy, and you see how the guys on that team play for him. And I guarantee you, every guy in the locker room absolutely loves the guy. It would run through a wall for him. That's what it's feeling like the last couple of years. And you said getting Mike Evans the ball there and in mop up time when he needed 5 more yards. That was pretty cool too. But the Commanders, I love DQ, coach there. He coached me in love the guy. And who would have thought they'd be 12-5 out of the gate like this? I don't think anyone did. So I think their season's a win regardless, but I like Tampa Bay as well.
Now, I don't know. I didn't watch the game last week. I saw that Love left with an elbow injury for Green Bay. I don't know how bad that is. We know Jalen Hurts has been in concussion protocol. Philadelphia's got the better roster, but you usually see an upset. I'm going to go upset special here. I got Green Bay over Philly, and Green Bay winning this one, and Nick Sirianni gets fired after this game.
You never miss a chance to bet against Jalen Hurts, Ballsy. I mean, I don't know. Did Jalen Hurts take someone from your family out for a nice seafood dinner and not call you back? What's going on? It seems personal at this point. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I don't know.
Good.
I don't know. The Packers have a nice team. I know Philly's awesome. I love Saquon Barkley. I like the Eagles. I like their Kelly green uniforms, those old school uniforms.
They got to stay.
And I don't dislike Jalen Hurts. I maybe don't like Nick Sirianni as much. I don't know. He kind of messes things. His team is good in spite of him.
Oh, man, it's crazy that anyone's ever talking about potentially firing a coach after a 14-win season. I don't know. I don't think I've ever recalled a time, and it's very possible that he gets fired if they lose on what are they playing on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I mean that's absolutely crazy. But the way they folded last year after I think starting 9-1 or 10-1.
Yeah.
And this year they've been strong all the way through, but a first round loss would just be devastating. I'm gonna take Philly with this one. I think they have to win.
Yeah. And actually, I'll help you out. I'm a Chargers fan. So the last team to fire a 14-win coach was the Chargers when Marty Schottenheimer went 14-2 and got fired. Remember that? That's when they picked off Brady. And if Marlon McCree goes down, Brady doesn't go to the Super Bowl and win it. But the Chargers fumbled and they lost their 14-2 season. And then Marty was out. Speaking of the Chargers, Harbaugh's turned that team around. I was so happy. It worked out so perfectly. It worked out so perfectly for my team last weekend. The Bengals beat the Steelers. The Chargers win against the Raiders, and they don't have to go to Baltimore. The one team that's in the playoffs that doesn't really deserve to be in the playoffs is the Houston Texans, in my opinion. That doesn't mean they won't win this weekend.
No.
They very well could, but I think the Chargers win this game.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you there. I mean, I'd rather see Cincinnati in the playoffs than Houston, but I think C.J. Stroud had a bit of a sophomore slump. I mean, I don't think he's a bad quarterback by any means, but I think he came out so strong in his rookie year that I didn't really see that same that same kind of performance this year. It's always tough going on the road in playoffs, especially on a Saturday, right? A Saturday early game, which is unfortunate for the Chargers going across the country like that, but. I'm with you. I hate to bet for the Chargers because you like them so much, but I'm going to go with the Chargers.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Hey, the late game that day is the Ravens against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers haven't won a playoff game since Jesus was a carpenter, it seems like. And Russell Wilson was great. Now it's kind of just gone downhill. I do not see the Ravens losing their first playoff game in this tournament.
I don't either. I mean, I think, everyone was so high on the Steelers. They come out 10-2? They started off the year 10-2 or something like that?
Yeah, 9-2.
9-2, and then now they just, they haven't looked good. I don't think they have the ability to play from behind. I think they're going to be playing from behind, like really early on in this game. If Russ has to start, throwing the ball over the place, that's not usually where Russ plays at his best. He manages the game better. Lamar Jackson is just doing Lamar Jackson things. I don't think he'll be the MVP, but he'll be the runner-up. So, I got to take Baltimore on this one.
Okay, wait a minute. You don't think Russ? Who's the MVP?
Jamar. Oh, who's the MVP? I want to see. Josh Allen's going to win it. I'd love to see Saquon Barkley win it, but I think that he'll finish third.
Yeah, me too. And then, of course, you got Baltimore against.
I got a question going back, though. Where is that game televised in Canada?
Which game?
Pittsburgh and Baltimore.
Where is it televised?
Yeah.
I don't know. No. Is it NFL? Is it the NFL network?
On the US, it's on Prime. A Prime membership to watch this game.
Yeah. So we get TSN picks all those up. So they pick all those up. But I have Prime, but it's crazy, man. And I actually think you're gonna Let's shelve this. I want to get to the predictions first. Let's shelve this. Yeah, I gotta ask you this question because you're a business guy. Okay, and then Buffalo against the Broncos. Let's give Sean Payton some credit. He should seriously be considered for Coach of the Year with Bo Nix, a rookie quarterback, and what they've done. I don't see them winning that game, but I do think it'll be closer than people think for a good chunk of that game.
I think they're the one team that's really playing with house money. No one expected it. I think they have $89 million in dead cap space this year. I don't know how you even build a team with $89 million in dead cap space. You got Sean Payton coming out. I can't stand the guy, but I think Coach of the Year has got to be between him and Harbaugh. I mean, two guys that step in and take their team on this good a record. And also, I was at the game week 1 when Denver played Seattle, and I wasn't impressed with them at all. I wasn't that impressed with Knicks. And how much better they've gotten every single week. That's why they could be a little bit scary in the playoffs. They could try to do something on a Sunday, but man, going into Buffalo at playoff time, Josh Allen, I just it would have to be one hell of an upset for them to win.
Josh Allen is a stud. And back to firing coaches with good records. If Sean McDermott loses, if Sean McDermott doesn't make it, how do I put this? If Sean McDermott is to keep his job, they have to lose in dramatic fashion in the AFC Championship game. Like that, he's got to go all the way to the cut. Like, because you've been there so many times, you got to get there. Like, in fact, I think he's got to get to the Super Bowl to keep his job.
I don't know about that, but I see what you're saying. He hasn't shown anything that he can get that team over the hump. They're a great team September through December, but nothing counts until you get to January and February.
Well, I'll tell you, if you were an owner sitting in that chair, regardless of how good you've been, you were a season ticket holder. Well, maybe not then, but the Riders, Danny Barrett, couldn't get him over the edge. Bring Ken Austin and they win a Grey Cup right away. Same type of thing. Rick Campbell in BC, close, gone. Now Buck Pearson there. Same thing here. Close. You better win or they're going to find they got to find somebody else.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not a huge fan of the guy either. But I mean, he cut me in Buffalo in 2018.
Yeah. What was he like to deal with?
I was with Pete Carroll for 8 years. The most positive, upbeat guy. Wasn't a big yeller. Was very stern, and he got his point across without screaming his head off. And McDermott was a little bit different. He just ran that team more with an iron fist a little bit, a little bit more military style than when I was kind of, I think if I was playing with him for 4 or 5 years and kind of got used to that, it wouldn't be a big deal. But just coming from, one day playing for Pete Carroll and literally the next day signing with Buffalo and being there, it was a tough transition.
And it's funny you bring that up because I was going to bring this up and I'm glad we tied it in. Dan Campbell is kind of, when he first got there, kind of a little hokey. You're rolling your eyes if you're not in the locker room. But, that the players gravitate to it. Jim Harbaugh, I know you're not a big fan because you were Seattle versus San Francisco back in the day, but for he's a jolly good fellow after every game, high-fiving guys. Seems like the dudes are buying into that type of culture, kind of a Pete Carroll kind of way.
It's a new age of players. It's not the same as when I first started playing pro football in 2004 and all the guys were born. Every single guy was born in the 60s or 70s when I was playing. I was the youngest guy on the team. And now you're seeing a totally different era of human being. These guys grow up completely different than you and I grew up. It's just a different time. And with that, the coaches have to adjust. And I think when you see guys like Dan Campbell, and as you said, guys like Harbaugh, who is an older guy but has adjusted to the younger players, I think when I see him mic'd up now, I'm like, I actually kind of like this guy now. He seems like everyone's biggest cheerleader, loves the guys, and the players will play for these guys. And that's, I don't mean to get off topic, but that's why I really want to see what Bill Belichick does at UNC. Because players don't respond to that kind of, he's dealing with one of these kids now, Gen Alpha, Gen C, whatever they are. And they don't respond to that same thing that Belichick has been doing for 40 years. So we'll see how that works out too.
Maybe that's why he's considering marrying a 24-year-old.
Yeah, keep him young, right? Yeah.
Okay. Lastly, you mentioned Prime. Listen, I know it's good because the rights and all that type of stuff as a businessman, but I think it's kind of watered down a lot of the. Like it's kind of, with the, we're going to flex this game out and flex that game out. They've got too many people to appease the NFL and they can't do it. So some of these networks are getting real shitty games for their primetime games because you can only flex so many games. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting because now, in the States here, you need Peacock, you need Netflix, you need Prime. You obviously need all your cable channels. You need NFL Network. You need all these separate things just to watch the games. Where it wasn't like that 10 years ago. You had NFL Sunday Ticket and you were set. I think it's hard to pass up the amount of money these streaming services are paying them right now. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out down the road because I don't know if the NFL can stay this popular. Every year it gets more and more popular, and I don't know if it can keep on going in that direction. And when it starts to eventually it'll start to kind of come down. It'll be interesting to see if people are still willing to pay for Peacock and Prime and Netflix and all these things just to watch a couple games a year. It'll be interesting.
Okay, I'm going on record here. I'm not going to say in the NFC. I think you're probably going to be right. I think the Eagles will find their way out of there and probably be in the Super Bowl. I actually think it's going to be an Eagles-Ravens Super Bowl. That's how I feel. But I am going to tell you this right now. I'm going on record here before the playoffs start. We are going to see an AFC championship game, Harbaugh versus Harbaugh. The Chargers will beat the Texans, and the Chargers will beat the Chiefs, who aren't as good as their records say, and the Chargers almost beat them twice this year, and the Ravens will beat the Bills after this week, and it'll be Harbaugh versus Harbaugh in the cold weather, and John will beat Jim again and go to the Super Bowl. That's my prediction.
I'd love to see something different. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are not a 15-1 ball team. I don't count that game last week because that was, mop-up time. But they're not a 15-2 ball club. They're like an 11-win team that are kind of getting by experience. And I always say football is not about luck, but they've gotten some luck this year. It's happened. So I think they're primed for the picking right now. And I think they could definitely be knocked off by a team like the Chargers. It could happen.
All right, John, kicking it with Jon Ryan. It's great. I love watching your, you and your wife do a regular podcast now. Is that correct? I see clips on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, it's called The Book Lisp. I'm an avid reader. My wife's an avid reader. She likes to read murder mysteries and psychological thrillers, and I like a good romance novel. So 1 month we'll read one of my books, and we'll kind of talk about it a little bit for the first 3 weeks of the month, but more just her and I shooting the shit about whatever. And then the fourth week of every month, we kind of do a little book review. So you can read along with us, or you don't have to read the book. You can still enjoy it, but it's available everywhere you get your podcast, The Book Lisp.
Awesome, man. Can't wait. We're going to talk a little romance next time. See you later, brother.
All right, bud. Thanks.
Take care. That's Jon Ryan. Caught up with him yesterday. Great guy. Just got a text. First of all, hi to Dave Delaforce, buddy of mine, goes to all the games. Wheelchair Dave, we always say, is at every sporting event. Love Dave. He's watching, listening. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that. Also, Larry G says, hey, that's your best guest, Jon Ryan. Yeah, I love Jon Ryan. He's a regular feature. Kicking It with Jon Ryan. You want to sponsor that? You can hit me up. DM me. X, Facebook, at Ballsy Uncut, Instagram as well. It's a great segment. And Jacob Cormier says, Jon Ryan for next president of the Riders. Actually, truth be told, I was told from some pretty reliable sources, well, I guess they weren't that reliable, but reputable people, that Craig Reynolds was going to quit after last season. That was it. He was going to leave as the president of the Riders. I had heard he's going back to the private sector. He's an accomplished accountant. Guy knows numbers, no doubt about it. Anyway, he was apparently, I was told by two people that I thought were in the know, that he was telling people he was going to leave. You know, I floated out the idea then, hey, if Craig is going to leave, which he didn't leave, he's back with the football team last year and this year, and who knows how many more years to come. If Craig Reynolds is going to leave, then Jon Ryan should be the next president. Jon Ryan, he's a guy that I propose. There's a few other guys out there. I won't put their names out. Luke Mulliner, I think, might, he is reputable in the community, former player, a dude that's very entrenched with the Red Cross and doing a great job as the VP for Saskatchewan operations. Scott Schultz, business guy, very successful business guy, football guy. But I said Jon Ryan would be great. He's been on the sports side with business, very successful. Two of his baseball teams won championships. He's the type of guy that could have a beer with you at a function and laugh and joke, or get in a boardroom, a Jim Hobson 2.0 type. So absolutely, I'm with Jacob Cormier. I could see Jon Ryan doing that. And I actually said, hey, John, would you ever consider that? And initially he said no. I said, talk it over with your wife, because if your buddy Wade Miller can do it in Winnipeg, and Wade's done a good job in Winnipeg, you can do it in Saskatchewan. And I think I changed his mind. Never did come to pass, but Jacob, you just opened up a can of worms there. Had a chance for me to unveil that here on Ballsy Uncut. Yeah. But such is life. Everything stayed status quo in Saskatchewan except for Corey Mace, who helped his football team get a home playoff game despite having an 8-game winless skid, as we know. Speaking of the Riders, they let Trevor Reed, their outstanding left tackle from Georgia, the Georgia native who played all 18 games for the Riders at left tackle, left the game here or there with cramping issues, but the guy was great at that left tackle spot. Nice find by Kyle Carson and Paul Jones, the personnel guys. Well, the Riders have let him go pursue an NFL opportunity. Hamilton Tiger Cats have let James Butler, the running back, out of his contract. We were mentioning Bill Belichick there with Jon Ryan. Bill Belichick was approached apparently by Tom Brady to, see if he's interested in the Raiders head coaching job, because they fired Antonio Pierce after a 4-win season. A season, and it took over partway through the year last year when they got rid of Josh McDaniels. He's been a failure as a head coach. And Antonio Pierce, can't really blame the guy. The Raiders are just a grease. They're a kitchen fire inside of a dumpster fire. Getting rid of Devontae Adams, this quarterback, Derek Carr's gone. This guy's gone. This guy's hurt. So you're not going to win too many games with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew as your quarterback. So Antonio Pierce is out. Raiders looking for a coach. Belichick not interested, apparently. But Belichick has hired former CFL coach, former Hamilton defensive coordinator Chris Jones as his defensive assistant. So there's some news right there. Elks release D lineman Elliott Brown to pursue an NFL opportunity, and the CFL is working on its 2025 schedule. We talked about last show, why doesn't the CFL, a 9-team league, have their schedule out already? Some people speculating it's because maybe there is something to the rumor that TSN's being sold, the top broadcast rights holder nationally for the CFL. I did some digging, and the people I've talked to say there's no truth to that rumor. Who knows if they're lying or not? Just like the Reynolds talk back in the day. Maybe it's my sources. I don't know. Some would say Ballsy, your sources suck. I know that already. That's what they'd say. But the CFL is working on their 2025 schedule, apparently, according to 3 Down Nation, and it will be announced in coming weeks. It was released in December last year. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Capitalize on kind of a bit of a downtime. Like, let's get on. Let's keep the talk going in the off season. Get the schedule out so people can make their plans. So people in Saskatchewan can make their wedding plans and their summer vacation plans. Although the heat for the riders has diminished. People have found other things to do since COVID, and the riders haven't done a good enough job bringing them back. They're trying with their ticket price cuts and everything like that. So they are trying. I'll give them credit, but they're going to have to try a little harder. And the fans want more than just a West final appearance. They want a Grey Cup. They want to have some sustained success. I wouldn't say 9-8-1 and a home playoff game is sustained success. It's a start, but we need to see more going into next season. Okay, a couple of other, I think, NFL notes. Chris Spielman will interview for the Jets GM job, former linebacker with the Lions. Thomas Dimitroff, the Canadian who went to Guelph, will interview for the Titans GM position. He was once with the Ottawa CFL franchise. Brian Flores might get a shot as the coach of the Jacksonville Jags. Of course, he failed as a head coach of the Miami Dolphins. He is right now the defensive coordinator for the really good Minnesota Vikings. So that's some NFL news for you. Oh, also, they may play that Monday Night Football playoff game that John and I talked about between the Vikings and the Rams. If they were doing things smartly, the Bush League, the NFL, because it would be called Bush League if it was a CFL. In fact, it is with the crossover games in the playoffs by a lot of NFL first fans. The 14-3 Vikings go to the Rams, who they won 9 or 10 games. It should be in Minnesota, but because of the wildfires and everything there, they may move that game to Phoenix, where the Cardinals play on Monday night. Of course, LA is burning to the ground. They always have wildfires this time of year in LA, but it's worse this time. A couple people passed away, ransacked a bunch of homes, including former CFL star David Benefield, whose son plays for Boise State and played in the college football playoffs. His parents' home, which was around since 1926, went up in smoke. Nobody died there, thankfully, but that's some tragic news there in Los Angeles. And that because of that, the Calgary LA Kings game has been postponed tonight. Last I saw, Vancouver and Washington tied at 1 in another game involving a Canadian NHL team. Okay, time for a sponsor break, and then we'll wrap things up with the offensive coordinator of the Regina Thunder, Carter Gusway. All right, new offensive coordinator of the Regina Thunder, Carter Gusway, joining me here. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. Excited to be here.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your background. I know you were with the Thunder last year in a bunch of roles, including coaching the quarterbacks. But previous to your time with the Thunder, just tell us about your background.
Sure. It kind of goes way back. But I won't kind of do the short version of the story. I grew up in Regina, Saskatchewan, as well.
Okay, folks, I'm not sure why there was feedback on that interview. So what we're going to do is, because I'm the boss, I can shelve that interview, and we will run that one on Friday. I'll run that interview with Carter Gusway on Friday. It's what we like to say, an evergreen interview. I'm not sure why there was feedback there, but I will get that fixed. We'll have Carter Gusway on Friday. Also, Andy McNamara to get your betting fix in for the wild card weekend in the NFL. That'll do it for our time here. I do apologize for that technical snafu. I'm not sure why that happened, to be quite honest with you. Want to thank our sponsors, Ward Tirecraft, 101 Dudney Avenue, Paul Waldo at Royal LePage, getting a real estate game with the 3-time Grey Cup champ, 306-502-5355. Also want to thank District Brewing and the Super Squeeze Seltzer, Mango Lime, Passion Fruit Lime, Also, AGT Foods Canada, Murad Al-Khatib and the gang. He is the president of the Regina Thunder. I think he was tuned in for this interview, but I will get it straightened away here. We'll have him on Friday. And Gerhardt Studios, Nicole and Dean, and the boys next door, window cleaning, Nathan and Landon. Thanks for checking us out, and we will talk to you tomorrow, Friday.